I'm back. Road Rants for Black and White on Pop Culture. And let's talk about The Mandalorian. Season 2, Episode 4, The Siege. Directed by the great Carl Weathers. This episode will see us reunite with some of our favorites and get a glimpse in person of also one of our favorites. And very good episode. Very good episode. There's some things I realized about the series today as I was watching it after it was over. And so we'll talk about that. The episode begins. They're on the Razor Crest. Baby Yoda, the Mandalorian, he's trying to do some repairs. He has sent Baby Yoda down into a little, not even a passage. I mean, it's very tiny. A place in the ship where he's trying to connect some wires, and he's trying to instruct Baby Yoda, and of course, Baby Yoda is an infant. So he's kind of messing it up. It reminds me a little bit reminiscent of Empire, where Han is talking to Chewie on Hoth. Chewie is on top of the Millennium Falcon, and Han's up there, and he's like, no, this one goes here, that one goes there. Well, he tells him, whatever you do, don't put the blue wire and the red wire together, and Baby Yoda says, bam, immediately. Like clockwork. And that's what a child will do. He is the child. So, really charming scene. This good character building moments between these two. Then we go to them sipping on porridge. I don't know what the hell they're drinking, but they're sitting there. They're conversating back and forth. It's very, very reminiscent of a father-son moment. You see the Mandalorian. You hear sort of the airlock around his helmet. As he raises it, takes a drink. You can't see his face, and puts it back down. Okay, so we still don't get to see Pedro Pascal there. That's okay. He's like, we need to go see some old friends before we look up this Ahsoka Tano. So they go back to Navarro. He's going back to see Grief Karga, Cara Dune, Carl Weathers, and Gina Carano. She's a beauty. And they get there. There's banter between the two. And Grief tells his folks, hey, fix the Razor Crest because it is in need of repairs. So they head off, and there's some, they discuss some things. We are reintroduced to the blue fish character, I believe played by Horatio Sanz or something like that. From the first episode, of course, he was frozen in carbonite during the first episode. He was a bounty. Now he's working for Grief Karga, working off his bounty, and asked the Mandalorian to help him and Cara Dune get rid of an Imperial facility that is still on the planet. And there's still Imperials there. It's where the Imperials were housed on that planet. And they believe it's just, they think that's what it is. It's not like a mining facility or something like that, but it turns out that it's more sinister. We will find out later in the episode. So they take off, they go there, they take a speeder. The blue fish guy goes with them. Now, before that, there is a scene where we're reintroduced to Cara Dune. She is the Marshal of Navarro now. She kicks the shit out of the it's Aqualish species, which is like Ponda Baba, Walrus Man from A New Hope. Well, she gets into it with like 4 of them, and she dispatches all of them. She meets a little critter. He becomes friends, blah, blah, blah. They say, look, Mando, we need you to help us wipe out this Imperial facility so we can have some peace. Like, true, that's the last thing on the list for Gina Carano and Grief Karga to do. He's kind of like the mayor. She's the marshal. Of course, the Mandalorian's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go do it. So they get there. They get to the facility. The blue guy pulls out a cutting torch, trying to get in the door. The Mandalorian's like, I'm going to go up top. He goes up top, and while they're standing there, ooh, boom, stormtrooper hits the ground. They get in there, and it's one thing I realized in this episode as I'm watching it. There's something great about Star Wars and Imperial corridors, okay? It just feels like Star Wars. And, of course, they're going through there. They're dodging. They're trying to be quiet around stormtroopers. There are quite a few stormtroopers there. Because, in fact, when they get up to where the Mandalorian was, we find out he has taken out like 5 stormtroopers up there, and they're all laying around. There is also a transport up there, Imperial land transport. We get up there, they go through, they're taking out stormtroopers. They want to get to a reactor because this, of course, this planet is got lava. And there's a lava pit down below. They send the bluefish guy out there to disable the reactor, which, of course, is going to cause the lava to rise and blow up. Okay? The reactor keeps the lava at bay. So they do that. And the guy's there for, he's a comedian in real life. He's there for comic relief. And he's okay. Okay? His comedy's not cringy, but it's not belly laughing funny either. Okay? It's just sort of back and forth banter. They make their way through the corridors and they get to a room where there's 2 Imperials right there. And, the room looks fishy right off the bat. They walk in, these 2 Imperials, they shoot, kill both of them. Well, they discover a hologram. And it's Dr. Pershing talking to Moff Gideon, telling him about subjects that did not make the cut during testing using Baby Yoda's blood. And then the camera pans around, and there are several clones in there. That's what they are. They're in tanks, and it's clones that they are growing. Okay, so, there is some concern here because now, it feels like we're creeping into the Snoke, Emperor Palpatine situation, and I had a feeling that's where we was going. Now, whether or not those are going to end up being Snokes, whether or not they're going to end up being Emperor Palpatines, who the hell knows? But it is sort of concerning. It makes me wonder if one of those clones is not going to come out and end up being evil Sith-like, and he's going to be one of the villains later on. That's just purely speculation. I'm pulling that out of my ass. The Mandalorian's like, well, that's an old transmission because Moff Gideon's dead. And the guy is like, no, this is 3 days old. And you see, even though he's got a helmet on, this is where Pedro Pascal is good at conveying emotion with that helmet on. Even with the helmet, the emotionless helmet, there's emotion of, he goes, I've got to get back to the child. And he takes off. Because he realized if Moff Gideon's still alive, that's not only is he trying to get the child back where he belongs, but the protection of the child is paramount above everything, because he knows Gideon is ruthless. So, Grief Karga, Cardoon, the bluefish guy, everybody's got to escape. They get back to the Imperial transport. They're leaving the facility. She does a Dukes of Hazzard off the side of the cliff, and they take off down the way. The one thing I realized during this scene is as Grief Karga sort of mounted the guns, and Cardoon is got some swag. Cardoon's got a little Han Solo swag to her. Makes her even more intriguing. I started realizing, I'm like, I'm starting to think that Gina Carano, Cardoon, her character there might actually be, I didn't know if I would be down with a spinoff series, but I started realizing towards the end of this episode, I was like, you know what? There is potential around her character for something deeper, I think. Something combining her and Grief Karga's character would actually be, because Carl Weathers is really, really good in this role. They escape. There is a beautiful shot of biker scouts coming over the cliff after them. Carl Weathers mans the guns on the Imperial transport, begins taking these biker scouts out, and then TIE fighters show up. And the music in this, during the scenes involving the Imperials, especially TIE fighters, Moff Gideon, etc., ominous. It is awesome. It's kind of scary. It's like, ooh. Everything just got, when you hear that music, everything feels ratcheted up a notch. But we can talk, look, in fact, we can talk about that now. This series benefits greatly when the Imperials get involved. When the former Imperials get involved, everything feels like there's a element, and this is one thing that Solo, the movie, lacked, was the lack of a bigger galactic threat in the movie. Well, all of a sudden, when the ex-Imperials and Moff Gideon's involved, everything gets ratcheted up a notch. The importance goes up. The the strive to stay alive becomes more of a pressing issue when you know that the Imperials and Moff Gideon are involved. So those TIE fighters come through there. You see the TIE fighter pilot, very cool. And Grief Karga shoots at one of the TIE fighters. But then I see something that I didn't know I needed to see, but turned out to be fantastic. We see the Razor Crest in a dogfight with TIE fighters. Now, who knew I needed this my entire life? But evidently I did, because it was freaking awesome. I loved that old ass ship trying to take on TIE fighters. Din Djarin's a hell of a pilot, it seems. He's a hell of a pilot. He's certainly, much like Han, Din Djarin knows that old ship he's got. Absolutely. And his lasers are kind of that rapid fire laser situation like the Slave One had on Boba Fett's ship. Good God. Jon Favreau, give me the Slave One at some point this season, please. I need to see the Slave One more time. So they escape that situation. We get to the end, and a Republic trooper's there, that X-Wing pilot that we've seen prior, and he's having a talk. He's from Alderaan. So is Cara Dune. Rosvan believes that Cara Dune will end up being Boba Fett's wife. Okay. So that's neither here nor there. I'm sure he might say something in the comment section to explain that. But there is some ties there. Possibly. Okay. So that could be interesting, and that could be another angle for that Boba Fett series, right? He asked Cara Dune if she wants to work for the Republic. And she's like, nah, I'm good, nah. Well, he leaves a badge for her. So that one scene made me think, okay, is this the beginnings? Is this the makings of that Cara Dune series starting to sort of take shape? That there's going to be another piece of her story that is not Mandalorian related. Because it's pretty obvious that's probably what would happen. There would be a piece of the story that would need to be told, whether it's a full series or a limited series. Well, we saw that hatched. It was born right in front of us. Okay, right there with that job offer. Okay. Good episode. Believe it or not, I cannot believe that an episode where Bo-Katan got introduced, I think I like this episode better. I really do. I give this let's go an 8.25 out of 10. Hell of a good episode. If I've got any squabbles, it's the Bluefish character still gets on my nerves some. I mean, he was okay. It wasn't cringy humor. He's kind of becoming the. I noticed today they used him in almost a C-3PO kind of humor role, right? 3PO would contribute, but they also picked on 3PO all the time. And he had sort of this "aw shucks, god dang it, quit, leave me alone" thing going on. Well, that's what this guy's got going on too. So I don't know how much he'll be involved in the story going forward. Also, we get to the end. We find out something we noticed earlier when the Razor Crest landed and Grief Karga instructed his people to fix the ship. There was an alien that turned back and looked kind of weird as they were walking off, and I was like, oh, right there. There it is. There's the connection. And sure enough, later we find out that alien has put a tracking device on behalf of Moff Gideon and the ex-Imperials on that ship. Also, there's a mention of when the new... God, I don't even want to use the words First Order, but I would be remiss if I didn't come out and say something blatant here. It's clear this is how, if they were going to do a sequel trilogy, this is how it should have started. This would have been a ton of backstory that was needed prior to those films coming out. Okay? Prior. So, look, that's the only fear here is how much is this going to connect to the sequel trilogy? Because we know where that ends up, and it's a dumpster fire. So that is so concerning that this could end up being so good, and the ultimate story is so bad, So anyway, and The Mandalorian, I know, Disney, if it is in your thoughts for The Mandalorian to save the sequel trilogy, it will not happen. It will not happen. Okay. The Imperial officer walks around to Moff Gideon. Look, we see Giancarlo Esposito for the first time in the flesh on the screen this season. And immediately, look, he could end up being an epic Star Wars villain by the time this is done. He is ominous. He is evil. He is extremely intelligent, and there is something so sinister about his character, a lot like Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, which he played. And we see the camera, he sort of looks around, and he is deep surrounded by his death troopers. We know, badass stormtroopers, okay? And, I mean, a lot of them. There's probably like 40 of them bitches lined up on each side of him, and he's down there looking at them, okay? And he's like, we'll be ready, blah, 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 right? Good episode. Really good episode. I really liked it. The music is so good, particularly when the ex-Imperials get involved. Of course, the effects. The effects are on point. The effects are movie quality. And I still think that's where we're headed ultimately is a Mandalorian feature movie. 8.25 out of 10. The Bluefish character, he doesn't work for me. He doesn't kill the episode. He's not Rose Tico level annoying, okay? He's not Admiral Holdo level annoying, but I just don't know that we need him. Okay, he can be cringy in parts, I think, and that's probably the only negative I got to this episode. Great to see Cara Dune, Grief Karga's characters come back in. It is clear these three characters working together absolutely works for this series. It's very good. There's great chemistry between Pedro, Gina, and Carl Weathers, and it comes across on the screen when they're on the screen together. This is this series trio. You know, this is this series trio, and I hope they're aware of that, because there's part of me that believes we're only going to get them for this episode and probably one more of the season, which kind of sucks. You know, because they definitely work. They definitely work on screen together. Absolutely. Tell me what you think in the comments section. Black and White on Pop Culture fans. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.